You know what gets me? It's almost like Amazon can read my mind, you know? Like, just this weekend, my old coffee grinder, it finally gave up the ghost. Dead.
Oh no, the worst
The
timing.
worst.
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon, no coffee grinder. What am I going to do? But then, bam, Amazon to the rescue.
Of course.
2 clicks later, new grinder at my door by Monday morning. I mean, come on. It's like they have this direct line to my
Yeah.
caffeine cravings. How do they do it? Seriously, what's the secret sauce?
Well, that's what we're diving into today.
This is it, the Amazon deep dive, people.
Mhm.
We're going behind the scenes with academic papers, market analysis, even a peek behind the curtain of Amazon's internal culture. Gotta understand this force of nature, right?
Exactly.
And more importantly, what can we learn from it? What's in it for us?
So what's amazing about Amazon is that they haven't just mastered speed and low prices, which are, don't get me wrong, impressive on their own.
Right.
They've gone way beyond. They've created this incredibly strategic business model. It's almost like they found a way to make it self-sustaining, like a perpetual motion machine for e-commerce. It's like they cracked the code.
So how do we even begin to unpack that?
One way to visualize this, to really grasp the different moving parts, is with something called a business model canvas.
Okay, so it's like a blueprint, like for their entire operation.
Exactly. It breaks their business down into 9 key components. And when you see them all laid out like that, the genius of it really starts to sink in. Let's start with customer segments. Basically, who are they targeting? It's actually a bit more nuanced than you might think.
Well, they're targeting me, right? And probably everyone listening to this right now.
You're not wrong, but there's more to it than that. Sure, they target individual consumers like yourself, but they're also playing in the business-to-business space with their specialized services. And let's not forget developers with things like Amazon Web Services or AWS.
Oh, right, AWS. They're like the landlord for the internet, right? Providing the infrastructure, the tools for everyone else.
Exactly. They're selling the picks and shovels during the gold rush. And by targeting these 3 distinct segments, individual consumers, businesses, and developers, they create this fascinating, interconnected ecosystem.
Right. Businesses need developers. Developers need a platform like AWS. And we, the consumers, we benefit from this whole interconnected system. It's pretty brilliant when you think about it.
It is.
So they've got the who figured out. But what about the what? What's their value proposition? Why should we choose Amazon over, say, braving the mall or hunting down a local store?
That's the thing. It goes beyond just convenience or low prices, although those are definitely part of the equation. You have to consider the sheer scope of their selection. It's almost overwhelming. But they managed to make it manageable with personalized recommendations. You know, it's like they're trying to anticipate your needs even before you realize you have them.
Like with my coffee grinder situation.
Right.
It's like they knew.
Exactly. And underpinning all of that, their key activities, this is where their obsession with data really shines. They're constantly managing this massive online platform, optimizing logistics with incredible precision, and of course, relentlessly pushing the boundaries with things like drone delivery and those cashierless stores.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Because to offer this insane selection, the speed, the constant innovation, you've got to have some serious key resources, right? It can't all be algorithms and good intentions.
Absolutely not. Think massive warehouses, cutting-edge technology, not to mention a vast network of suppliers that they somehow manage to keep both happy and competitive. And of course, we can't forget about their employees.
Which, let's be honest, is a whole other deep dive waiting to happen.
It really is.
But all of that, the resources, the activities, it's got to be reflected in their cost structure, right?
Right. Their operational costs are massive. The warehouses, the technology, the logistics network. Then there are the costs associated with marketing, research, and development. Don't forget, they're always pushing the envelope. And of course, there's the cost of managing and, let's be honest, sometimes struggling to manage their very large workforce.
So how does it all add up? Where do their revenue streams actually come from? Because it can't just be from us add to cart, can it?
You're catching on. While product sales are a significant part of their revenue, they've diversified incredibly well. Subscription services like Amazon Prime are a huge moneymaker for them.
It's true. I can't imagine my life without Prime now.
Right. And then there's the behemoth that is AWS, their cloud computing arm. They're not just playing the e-commerce game, they're providing the platform for everyone else to play too.
It's really incredible how they've evolved from this online bookstore to, well, whatever you'd call this empire they've built. I mean, it's not like they started out as Amazon everything, right? This was a process.
You're right. This case study we're looking at, it's called El Estudio del Caso Amazon, Lesiones del Líder en el Comercio Electrónico, and it does a fascinating deep dive on their evolution. It all started back in 1995, believe it or not. Relatively small, just selling books online.
Really?
But even back then, you can see how they were laying the groundwork for their future dominance.
What were they doing back then that was so revolutionary? I mean, it was the early days of the internet.
Think about it. Back in those early days of the internet, online shopping, it was still this new thing.
Right.
Kind of clunky, a little bit scary for a lot of people. But Amazon offered free shipping, which was basically unheard of at the time.
Wow, I bet.
And then, of course, there was that brilliant one-click ordering innovation. Pure genius, if you ask me.
That's how they got me.
Right. Completely removed all the friction from online purchasing.
It's funny how we take those things for granted now. Like, oh yeah, one click, whatever. But back then, that was a game changer. I remember the first time I used one-click ordering, I felt like I was living in the future.
It was. And that wasn't just about convenience. It was a strategic move that played a huge role in helping them survive the dot-com bubble when so many other companies, they didn't make it.
It's like they were busy building an ark while everyone else was still partying.
Pretty much.
So they survived the early internet, which is an accomplishment in itself. But how did they go from selling books to, well, pretty much everything? I mean, that's a heck of a pivot. So they rode out the dot-com crash, which, let's be honest, is like surviving the Hunger Games of the internet.
It's a good analogy.
And then they pivoted big time from books to, well, everything. How do you even begin to pull off that kind of transformation?
That's where things get really interesting. This is when we see Amazon in its, I guess, adolescence, really hitting their stride. From around 2002 to 2010, they went on this expansion and diversification spree. And the linchpin of this whole period, without a doubt, was the introduction of Amazon Prime.
Prime. Okay, see, now Prime, that's ubiquitous now, right? I
Right.
mean, free shipping, streaming services. It's almost strange to meet someone who doesn't have it.
Yeah.
But back then, what was so groundbreaking about that? It seems obvious now, but...
Think back to what online shopping was like pre-Prime.
Oh, I don't want to.
Right. You'd painstakingly find what you wanted, that perfect item, add it to your cart, feel good about yourself, and then bam, you hit the checkout and get slammed with those shipping costs.
Oh, worse.
The worst, like a punch to the gut. And suddenly, that thing you really wanted, not so much anymore. Prime completely eliminated that barrier. It made it painless.
So smart.
And because you didn't have that psychological hurdle of the shipping costs, people were more likely to just click that buy now button again and again.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. They turned us all into impulse shoppers from the comfort of our living rooms.
Exactly. And not just that, they cleverly bundled it with other services. Streaming, exclusive deals, you name it. They created this whole ecosystem of perks that just made it irresistible to say no.
Genius.
And while they were busy revolutionizing online shopping with Prime, this same period also saw them making huge strides in the world of cloud computing. Enter Amazon Web Services, or AWS as it's better known.
Which, going back to what you said earlier, it's like they're not just mining for gold, they're providing the tools and the land to everyone else.
Precisely. They were building this massive online infrastructure for themselves. They needed it to run their own operations, so why not rent out the extra capacity? Brilliant.
And spoiler alert, AWS, that's not a side hustle for them anymore, is it?
Not at all. It's massive. They're raking in more money from AWS than they are from their online retail business these days.
No way.
It's true.
So we've got Amazon dominating online retail. We've got them quietly becoming the backbone of the internet with AWS. I mean, at that point, where do you even go from there?
Global domination. It's like they said, we're doing great, but let's kick it into overdrive.
Okay.
From 2011 to the present, they've just become this unavoidable force. They're the go-to for pretty much anything you can imagine. They double down on Prime, start experimenting with drone delivery.
Which we'll get to.
Right. And they even dip their toes into physical stores again with the Whole Foods acquisition and those cashierless Amazon Go stores.
I still haven't been to one of those.
Oh, you have to.
It's kind of incredible, but also a bit terrifying to think about. Like, how can any other company even hope to compete with that kind of ambition, that reach?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you survive or even thrive in the age of Amazon?
Yeah. Spill the beans. What's the secret?
Well, to understand that, we need to introduce another business concept. But don't worry, this one is actually pretty straightforward. It's called Porter's 5 Forces. Have you heard of this one?
It rings a bell, vaguely. Remind me.
It's all about analyzing the competitiveness of an industry.
Okay, so how do these mysterious forces help us understand what's happening in the retail world and maybe more importantly, how to not get completely steamrolled by a behemoth like Amazon.
Let's break it down, make it real world. First up, we have rivalry among competitors. And trust me, even for a giant like Amazon, there's some heavy hitters in the ring with them. Walmart, Target, eBay, Alibaba. Heck, even companies like Google and Apple, they're becoming competitors in certain areas.
It's like a battle royale of the titans. So who's winning?
Well, that's the thing. Each competitor has their own strengths, their own strategies. Walmart, for example, they've doubled down on their physical stores.
Makes sense.
Right. They're leveraging that huge network they've got, and they're making big moves with their grocery delivery service to rival things like Amazon Fresh. And then you've got Target. They're going for that curated shopping experience, really focusing on their private label brands, making their stores a destination.
They do have good candles.
Don't they? And don't forget about Alibaba. They're like the Amazon of Asia, absolutely dominating that market. And then you have other players like Shopify. They're not directly competing with Amazon in terms of selling products. Instead, they're giving other businesses the tools to build their own online empires. They're like the arms dealers in the e-commerce arms race.
That's a good point. It's not just about being bigger than Amazon. It's about finding your own lane, your own unique angle.
Exactly. But let's not forget about the little guys, the startups out there, the ones with that David versus Goliath energy, dreaming of taking on the Amazonian giant. That's where the second force comes in, threat of new entrants.
And I'm guessing Amazon hasn't exactly rolled out the red carpet for these new guys.
Let's just say they haven't made it easy. We're talking about some serious barriers to entry. Think about it. You've got the brand recognition, right? Everyone and their grandma knows Amazon. You've got that insanely massive and efficient logistics network. And let's not forget the treasure trove of customer data that Amazon is sitting on.
Right.
That's gold. Hard to compete with that, especially when you're starting from scratch. It's like trying to build a car from spare parts while Tesla's out there launching rockets.
It's daunting.
Yeah. So the new guys, they have their work cut out for them. But what about the companies that were already established players before Amazon became, well, Amazon?
Right.
They have resources, they have infrastructure. So do they stand a chance?
Do they? Give us some hope here.
That brings us to the third and fourth forces in Porter's little power play here. We've got bargaining power of suppliers and bargaining power of buyers. Let's start with the suppliers, the companies providing all those products that Amazon sells. You'd think they'd have some leverage, right?
It seems like they would.
Yeah.
Like if a big enough supplier refused to play ball with Amazon, wouldn't Amazon lose out on selling those products?
You'd think so. That's the logical conclusion. But in reality, it's not that simple. Amazon's size, their sheer scale, it gives them enormous leverage in these negotiations.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. They can basically dictate terms, pressure suppliers to lower prices to meet these crazy fast delivery deadlines.
So the suppliers are stuck.
Pretty much. It's really hard to say no to Amazon when they come knocking.
So the suppliers are in a tough spot. What about us, the buyers? I mean, we have the power of choice, right? We can always just click over to a different website.
Absolutely. In theory, you, the buyer, you have all the power of the purse, right? But in practice, Amazon has become almost synonymous with online shopping for a reason. They've made it so easy, so convenient, and, let's be honest, so often the cheapest option that for a lot of people, they are the default.
It's true. I mean, I like to think I'm a conscious consumer, that I do my research, compare prices, and then I end up on Amazon anyway because it's just easier.
And that's exactly how they've shifted the power dynamic. They've created this ecosystem where it's just so frictionless to stay within their walled garden.
It's true. It's hard to resist the pull of the everything store.
Yeah.
But, okay, so they've got the suppliers in line, they've got us, the buyers, hooked, and even the new kids on the block are struggling to gain a foothold. Is there anything that could disrupt this well-oiled machine?
That, my friend, is where the fifth and final force comes into play. The threat of substitute products or services. This one is all about looking beyond the current landscape and thinking about what the future of retail might hold, what might be coming down the pipeline that could shake things up.
Okay, so are we talking about some futuristic technology that's going to completely change how we shop online? Like, is this Ready Player One stuff, virtual reality shopping sprees?
Maybe. Or maybe it's a change in consumer behavior. We've already seen a resurgence in the popularity of shopping local, supporting smaller businesses, a focus on sustainability. Could that trend continue and chip away at Amazon's dominance?
That's a good point. People are becoming more aware of the environmental and social impact of their shopping habits.
Exactly. Or maybe, and this is the exciting part, it will be something we haven't even thought of yet. something completely new. Remember, the internet itself was once a disruptive force that shook the foundation of traditional retail. Who's to say what innovations are just around the corner waiting to disrupt the disruptors?
Okay, so we've seen how Amazon built this empire, right? We analyzed the forces at play in the retail landscape, and we even peeked at how other companies are trying to carve out their own little corner of the market. But what about the future? Where do we go from here?
Well, to answer that, let's shift gears a bit.
Yeah.
We've been looking at the big picture, right? But let's zoom in on a specific challenge that Amazon is facing right now, as outlined in this strategic plan we've got here. Plan Estratégico para Amazon en Estados Unidos 2019-2021.
Okay.
It's all about their delivery network, specifically this ambition they have to revolutionize the last mile, that final step of getting a package from the warehouse to your doorstep.
Right.
And they're betting big on drone delivery to do it.
Amazon Prime Air. Yeah, I've seen the concept videos, those drones buzzing around, dropping packages on doorsteps. It seems so futuristic, but also, I don't know, is that really going to happen?
It's a bold vision, no doubt. And like any ambitious endeavor, it comes with its own set of challenges and opportunities.
Right.
So to unpack all of that, we can use another one of these handy business frameworks.
Hit me.
SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Okay, I'm game. Let's start with the strengths. When it comes to this whole drone delivery thing, what does Amazon have going for them?
Well, for starters, they've got this massive existing infrastructure, right? Warehouses strategically positioned all over the country, a sophisticated logistics network already in place, and let's not forget, a brand that is synonymous with fast, reliable delivery.
They've definitely set a high bar for everyone else.
Exactly. And let's not forget about their customer base. They've got a huge number of people who are already used to the convenience of things like Prime. Now, same-day delivery, they're primed, so to speak, to embrace even faster delivery options.
Right, they've kind of trained us to expect things instantly.
Exactly. But let's be real, there are definitely weaknesses, too.
Oh, I bet.
This technology, it's still pretty experimental. One major weakness is their current reliance on third-party delivery services for a big chunk of their deliveries.
Makes sense.
That can be expensive, and as we've all experienced at some point, not always as reliable as you'd hope.
Oh, tell me about it. I swear I've tracked packages all the way to the Bermuda Triangle and back.
Right. Drones could potentially bypass a lot of those issues, offer more control, more efficiency. But, and this is a big but, there are still some serious regulatory hurdles to overcome. Getting permission to fly drones all over the country, especially in densely populated areas, that's no easy feat.
Yeah, the FAA is probably going to have a thing or two to say about swarms of drones buzzing around like digital pigeons.
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of public perception. Are people actually ready for this? Are we comfortable with the idea of drones hovering over our backyards, peering into our windows?
Okay, maybe not that last part.
Thank
but
you.
You're right, it's a bit of a dystopian sci-fi movie waiting to happen.
Right. So there are valid concerns there. Safety, privacy, noise pollution. Amazon needs to figure out how to address those concerns head on if they want this whole drone delivery thing to become, socially acceptable.
It's like they need to win over hearts and minds, not just deliver packages.
Exactly. So those are some of the weaknesses, the challenges they're facing.
Right, hurdles to overcome. But let's say they do overcome them. What are the opportunities here? Why is Amazon so gung-ho about drone delivery in the first place?
In a nutshell, increased efficiency. Drones have the potential to deliver packages faster and cheaper than traditional methods, especially in areas with difficult terrain or just horrendous traffic. Imagine you could get a package delivered to a campsite in the middle of nowhere, or a beach house on a tiny island. No more waiting for the mail truck to navigate those winding roads.
Okay, that does sound pretty great. And I bet this would be huge for businesses too, right?
Absolutely, especially for time-sensitive deliveries, medical supplies, perishable goods. The possibilities are huge.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal here.
Yeah.
But we can't forget about the T in SWAT, right? What are the threats facing Amazon's little drone delivery dream?
Well, first of all, they're not the only ones with their eyes on the skies. There's competition from other drone delivery companies like Google's Wing and UPS's Flight Forward.
Oh, right.
So they've got competition. And then, of course, there's always the possibility of unforeseen technological challenges, accidents, maybe even malicious use of this technology. Drones aren't foolproof.
True, true. It's a brave new world, and it comes with its own set of question marks.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the verdict? Is Amazon's drone delivery dream destined to take flight or crash and burn?
Well, this strategic plan we're looking at, It lays out some pretty clear recommendations for Amazon. First and foremost, they need to keep investing in the technology, keep refining it. But just as importantly, they need to build trust with regulators, with communities, with the public at large.
Right.
They've got to address those safety and privacy concerns head on.
It's almost like they need to make drone delivery cool. Like they need to be the Apple of drone delivery.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe one day we'll all look back and wonder how we ever lived without drones dropping packages on our doorsteps. Or maybe some other, even crazier technology will come along and completely change the game. That's the thing about the future, right? Always keeps us guessing.
And that's why we love doing these deep dives. Always something new to explore, something to ponder.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our Amazon adventure here, what's the key takeaway for our listeners? What's the big so what?
The world of business, especially in this digital age, it's constantly changing, it's morphing, it's evolving. And Amazon's success, while impressive, it's not magic. It's the result of innovation, strategic thinking, and this deep, deep understanding of their customers, and of course, the competitive landscape.
So what you're saying is there's hope for the rest of us.
Exactly. That's something we can all learn from, whether we're running a business, navigating our careers, or just trying to keep up with the world around us.
Keep learning, keep adapting, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next Jeff Bezos. Or maybe not, but at least you'll be ready for whatever the future throws at you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Amazon.
My pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.